time and again my friend is saying this is unscientific. So it is based on the kind of reaction which comes that we are not that Hindu is based on actual empirical and the most recent experience also, where we feel when I speak as Hindu, I cannot speak a sentence before saying that I am not that Hindu. That is one liner I wanted to say in response to Jatenji. That's all. But the main point I want to say is that the kind of apex discourse we had, and we are calling it social scientist and religious practitioner, it also speaks of a kind of absence of similar discourse at the grassroots, where our school teachers, our dharam jigyasu people, and our swamsevaks of our variety are not interacting on an everyday basis. So what I will urge Madhuji, and I am a willing volunteer in that, even when the project is over, how to ensure this kind of multilateral, you have been calling it, multilateral dialogue between various kinds of pursuits of religiosity, social work, and material well-being of the poor masses, be it in education or ecological conservation or whatever. And that restoration has to take place, and it has something to do what Dharampalji described with the colonization of our minds. And this phenomenon is a modest beginning, and I think it's a nascent phenomenon. It should be nurtured and not only criticized. And it should not be overloaded with other expectations, like Sanjeev said, bring in democracy, bring in, a lot of people are doing that, democracy in politics and political economy. I would like it to be even lightened its burden and not bring in social scientists as social scientists, only the learners among social scientists, and let there be interfaith people discussing these issues with social scientists, just as taking notes and learning, and they can have their own several separate conference afterwards to present their papers, in which religious leaders can also come. So this kind of lightening of the burden and focusing of the agenda at our level, and what kind of processes on the ground are there, just connect with them also at a voluntary level. One is willing volunteer for that one.
Thank you. Maya? Okay, you want to, of course. Yes.
Very quick, a few suggestions which came to my mind when I saw the exchange between the two acharyas. One facet of this project seems to be, or at least could be, revival is a bad word, but a sort of academic revival of the old dialogic tradition in the Indian philosophical tradition. As they were saying, I mean, a lot of Indian historiography, social historiography, has come out of the records of these dialogic traditions between the Adi Shankaracharya and the Buddhist epistemologists and the Buddhist philosophers. Why don't we, for the next events, try and have, if not a whole conference, at least some panels or some sessions where we have prominent academically oriented representatives of different Indian philosophical traditions, spiritual religious traditions, including the so-called non-theistic, atheistic philosophies, and have them discuss and debate. If possible, I don't know how far academically this is possible, but if possible, sort of imitating or at least trying to recreate the dialogic ambience that might have existed at that time. I don't know how this will work out, but something where the terms of reference wouldn't be in the modern Euro-American discourse tradition, but in the, I don't know how this is possible, but I would like to think about it. Second very quick suggestion is, a point very well taken that, I personally, in a very uninformed and non-academic manner, don't think we should believe in these distinctions, as Bajaj Sahab was saying, like, who's RSS, who's non-RSS. Somehow I feel, and this is totally in a personal note, but somehow I feel the very fact that we are mentioning the RSS a zillion times throughout every conferences is a testimony to the implicit presence and power of this organization. Whether you like it or not, it is there. So why reveal our own academic and non-academic insecurities by referring to the RSS ad nauseam? Thank you.
I have a medical background and I teach public health in JNU. All three sort of put me outside much of the kind of discussion that happened. But from a public health angle, I've been looking at some of these, the impact of religious organizations on delivery of services, like we say, or ideas around health. And the name that was taken, Baba Ramdev, is a very good example of what we see in India as a phenomenon today. But there's much more happening in various organizations in multiple ways. And I think in some of your earlier sessions you've already covered some ground on that maybe. But I would feel very benefited if that was something which was taken on as a central issue and examined both for the kind of epistemology that's there as well as the formations in which it works.
On behalf of the Sahajoga Trust, I thank the steering committee to facilitate. I'm not a social scientist, I'm actually a telecom engineer, as mentioned yesterday. And again I mentioned the whole purpose of me participating in this Hindu organization discussion was to find a place to share this knowledge of spiritual science